You're a lover of stories. You know that your books are filled with stories. When you speak, you use stories powerfully. Your Bible studies now on YouTube, you're using stories powerfully. Um, what do stories mean to you? Why are they so important to the way you communicate with people?
Um, I like to tell folks stories don't illustrate the point. Stories are the point.
Mm,
Um, my hunch is I don't have the data, but if I had the data, I'm pretty sure I know how it would turn out. If you ask people, what's the one teaching of Jesus that you remember, they would either say the parable of the Good Samaritan, the parable of the sower and the seed, or the parable of the prodigal son. All stories.
yeah.
Um, stories are memorable. Second of all, they're real. Um, third of all, you can engage at them in multiple levels. I mean, a 5 or a 10-year-old can engage with the parable of the prodigal son, and an 85-year-old can engage with it. It's not complex. You engage at your own level. Second of all, you remember it, and the power of memory to go back and revisit that story. Um, so first of all, after you hear it, you go back and you chew on it over the next week or three. But then also, the, I love my favorite thing in life is when somebody comes to me who heard me speak 20 years ago and they say, "You remember that story?" And I go, "I don't, but I'm so glad you do." Because it stays with you and you can go back to it and you can revisit it and engage it at a different level. And it's shaping you more than you're shaping it. So, I mean, I think there's a reason why Jesus used stories most of the time. Um, so that they've been powerful in my life. I mean, the things that have been most transformational for me have been stories.
Yeah. You wrote a book, 21 Undeniable Secrets of Marriage. Um, it's helped marriages. It has saved marriages. It
Mm,
has transformed marriages. It
mm.
has uh, prepared couples to be married. Um, do you have a favorite of the 21 secrets?
Well, I mean, the favorites my grandmother sang. Um, I remember my grandmother telling me very distinctly, "Alan, don't marry somebody you can live with. Marry somebody you can't live without."
Mm.
There's just a lot of truth in that one statement. Um, the other, I guess, is because I always have two answers, um, which is why this interview will be 6 hours. Is the secret of the little things? That research from John and Julie Gottman, the Jewish academic researching culture, Jewish academic researching couple uh, in Washington State, who's probably emerged over the last 30, 40 years as the premier researchers on marriage. The idea that in a healthy marriage, there's 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. So for every roll of the eye, for every turning of a cold shoulder, for every not giving undivided attention, every one of those, there's got to be 5 undivided attention, smiles, thank yous, winks, touches, and that when that ratio gets out of whack, you're in the danger zone.
Mm.
And so I think we think of marriage as these big grand gestures. I got this big ring. We went on this big vacation. We had this big honeymoon. We got this big house. Da 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 da. It's not the big things. I mean, the research proves that it's the little interactions, day to day. Again, it's every day because it is so intimate. It's the little things, treating each other in a positive, kind way. That's going to lead to. Uh, that's the greatest preventer of divorce
Mm.
is the little things, and anybody can do that.
A week doesn't pass without someone emailing me, speaking to me, sharing with me that they're thinking of getting divorced.
Mm.
What advice would you have for that person?
Take a deep breath. Um, to quote one of your books, take the long view. Um, dream about who you want to be. Dream about what you want your life to look like. Don't react in the moment. Um, because the fact of the matter is, the grass is probably not greener on the other side of this marriage. That's hard for people to hear
Mm.
um, because I think we have this endless hope springs eternal. I messed up this one, but I'm gonna go find a better one. There's a reason why the divorce rate for first marriages is 50%, for second marriages is 70%, and for third marriages is 90%. Um, so your greatest likelihood is to figure out how can I make this work. So, not telling you have to stay married, just saying take a deep breath and dream a little bit about not only who you are, but what you want your life to look like. There's no rush. That's what I tell them.
Are there exceptions? Are
Oh,
there
of course, of course.
scenarios that in that conversation someone has to be mindful of?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you're in a situation where you are being severely abused, or if you're in a situation where there is um, routine casual adultery, those kinds of things, yeah, we got to take a hard look at this. Um, but the bulk of American divorces don't fit into those two categories. Those are very real categories. Not disputing that at all. But Americans, we have I mean, that's part of the reason why we're seeing such a low marriage rate among 20 somethings and 30 somethings now, is because we've so watered down what marriage actually looks like. It no longer really seems possible or appealing to people who are now of marrying age. So they're marrying at an increasingly low rate. Um, because they're not seeing sort of lifelong, selfless, giving, sacrificial love. They're seeing kind of transactional. I'm not happy anymore. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing a skyrocketing divorce rate among baby boomers, for heaven's sake. I mean, I'm the youngest age of baby boomers, so 1946 to 64. So people between 78 years old and 59 years old, skyrocketing divorce
Mm.
rates. I mean, somehow we've lost. I mean, to me, I hope anyway that what we believe is that should be the richest harvest season for the marriage, not the season of I just can't stand you anymore. I sucked it up as long as I could. I mean, to me, that's just the painful tragedy of that.
Is there a connection between that and the denial of the fourth quarter reality, do you think?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Because I mean, if you think about baby boomers as being like particularly not my age, but the older baby boomers as the kids of the '60s and the sexual revolution and free love and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a romanticism of I want to go back to my youth. I want to recapture the pizzazz and the sizzle that I had when I was 15, 20, 25. And I'm not feeling it anymore in this marriage that's been around for 30 or 40 years. So I'm going to go reinvent that. And more often than not, people find what they find is they can't reinvent it, and they're increasingly lonely and they're increasingly broke because instead of supporting one household, they're now supporting two on the same amount of money. So they've gone into more poverty, more loneliness, and more despair because they've sold this false dream.